Sounds good.
All right, everyone, welcome to the podcast. Today we have a very, very special guest, Mr. Showdown Joe Ferraro himself. How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing pretty good, man. But before we get started, I have to send out an apology to you, live and direct, publicly, because we had originally scheduled this last week, but I had a last-minute, huge emergency mortgage related for my other business to take care of. So it happened about an hour and a half before the show, ladies and gentlemen. So I had to get out there as you know.
Right.
A client of mine could have potentially lost over $500,000, so I saved that. But couldn't get back in time to do this with you. But I'm super happy we're doing it now.
Thank you for the apology, but it's not necessary, Joe. I really appreciate your time as always, and I'm glad to have you back on. This is hopefully a yearly tradition for us. We did this last year before the Great Yabaranoka and Rise and Fortune, of course. When are you flying out, Joe?
I leave next Saturday, December 28th here. I guess I land there December 29th, and before you know it, I'm home on the Wednesday, January 1st. So, wow. Yeah, we usually I fly out the day before from Toronto. It's 2 days before the weigh-ins, but obviously it's a 12-hour flight direct from Toronto to Tokyo. So when I land there, it's actually the 29th. Everybody wants to go out for dinner that night, and I'm like, the body can't. My human body, I'm a human. Right. I can't, where the body clock is completely out. So I grab my own quick little sushi dinner if I can, and then go to bed. And then we wake up December 30th for the weigh-ins. We have a production meeting first thing in the morning, and then we take it from there.
So you won't be going to Bellator, Japan?
No. I wanted to. We tried to do it. We tried to figure out, the logistics, but just couldn't do it. So I wasn't able to go. But unfortunately, it's, take a look at that card, right? I'd love to even just sit there ringside or at the top floor or the top section, top row in Saitama just to watch these fights. But unfortunately I can't do it. So it's,
I understand that. Do we know who's calling that card?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I'm assuming it's going to be the Bellator guys. I don't know who just yet, but it's going to be the Bellator guys for sure.
And I have heard that the post-limbs are on either the Bellator app or DAZN. Do you have any info on that?
I don't. I'm still trying to find out myself because I might have to, pitch in some cash on Wi-Fi on the plane to see if I can catch it. If not, when I land, I think I'm landing when the event is actually going down. So hopefully I'll get back to my room and try and figure out how I'm going to watch it. So
because I talked to Jamie Henshaw a couple days ago, and she had told me that her contract said that they were possibly fighting in a ring.
I wouldn't surprise.
But she wasn't sure. She said she was training in the ring and in the cage. For the Bellator Japan event, and she said she probably wouldn't wait till they got there.
I assume some way, somehow they'll have a Bellator cage there. But if it's in a ring and it's because it's a special occasion, it's in Japan. If you're training for this type of bout, you want to know, right? Because it's a completely different fight when you're in a cage versus a ring, completely and utterly different. So as an athlete, male or female, you got to know what you're being prepared for, because having your back against a cage, as an example, or trapping your opponent against a cage is completely different than when you're doing it in a ring, because they've got those, the inspectors and pushing you in there, right? So it's a completely different type of fight.
As you calling the fight, would you rather call fights in the ring or in the cage? Do you have a preference, or watching them?
Doesn't matter.
What about?
I'm old school, man. I've been doing this for over 20 years. Any two athletes that step into a ring or cage will always have my respect. I don't care about the haters and what the fans say about, because everyone's divided when it comes to fighters. I don't care. Right. I'm lucky enough. I'm blessed. I'm 46 years old. Okay. I've been doing this since I was in my 20s, and I'm still a fan. I'm still a quote unquote, not a fanboy, but I'm it's real to me. It's so cool to be like, I'm lucky. I've been to Super Saitama Arena how many times now? And every time I go in there, I still look around and I've got visions of VHS tapes. I got VHS tapes under my desk right here of pride. And, looking back in the days when, Fader was taking on Nogueira and Volchanchin and guys like that, and Hickson was taking on, Takata, whomever.
Right.
Those are the things I used to look at when I was in my 20s. And to go there, you still, I'm one of those guys that will always seize the moment. Doesn't matter how many times. Ask Trigg. I'll walk into the arena, and sometimes him and his wife will be talking to me. I'm not even paying attention. I'm still looking around going, man, the stuff that's gone down here, and the stuff that we've called. Mayweather, Nasukawa. You're always looking at stuff like that thinking, man, I was a part of that. How cool was that?
And it shows on the broadcast, Joe, that you're real passionate about what you do. And as a fan, I appreciate that, because, we don't always get that in MMA. Sometimes we have at people that aren't necessarily, I mean, in the media too, that aren't necessarily, I don't know if they're unwilling to admit that they're fans, or if they just want to present themselves as professional, but we're all fans. Isn't that why we want to do this? You know, this is why I do this.
You're bang on. Like for me, listen, when the broadcast goes live, right? I've got to do my job. I've got to be professional. I've got to, you know, I've always been that type of guy. I want to tell stories, right? Because we know they're fighting. We know their capabilities. We know what's up there. But what is their story? I want to know more about them because I've always believed way back when my TV show, was Coast to Coast on Canada. And when I pitched it to the network, it wasn't just that they're fighters. Who are they as people? And that's why I like to use that introduction portion of when they're walking from the back down the ramp to the ring. It allows me the opportunity, 30 seconds, a minute, depending on if they're sprinting to the ring or walking or putting on a show. And, sometimes when it comes to Crow Cop, as an example, let it breathe, man. Wild Boys, let it play. When Andy Wynn, for example, when she does her intro, I look at Trigg and we both know, shut up, let her do it. Let her do it. That smooth criminal entrance will still go down in my books as one of the, top 3, top 5 of all time. And I was sitting there going, what are we watching here? I know she's about to fight and she's got these moves going and just absolutely, and Michael Jackson's Michael Jackson.
Right.
Going, right. And the crystal clear sound with the Japanese production. And so you can't help but just seize the moment and be a fan. But when the time comes, now you got to be a professional. And, we all know Trigg. Trigg loves to joke around and throw his pot shots at me, whether because I'm Canadian or he can't take a shot at me because I'm bald. He's bald as well, so he can say whatever he wants. But we have a good time with people on Twitter. So for me, it's like be professional, but don't be a robot, man. Have fun. Enjoy it, right? Don't cross the line. Don't insult fighters. Don't be rude. Don't be, there's times when you're looking at a fight and you're just kind of like, this is Japan. Like, you can't win on points. You got to.
No. And if you want to come back, you better put on a show, win or lose. I've talked to a lot of these newcomer fighters, and some of them ask me on and off camera, and I'm telling them, just put on a show. It's not as much. You want to return to Rizin, put on a show. Look at Minowa Man, for example, in Prague, right? He lost half of his fights. 8-8 at one point. I did want to talk to you a little bit about this Bellator Japan card, though. Is there any let's talk about the main card first. Is there anything that stands out to you? Well, let me ask you first about Darren Cruikshank and Goichi Yamauchi.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Cruikshank, 2 losses in a row, right?
Yeah.
Can't afford to lose, but the dude always puts on a performance. That guy there is an absolute gong show in the ring and outside of it. I can't get a word in when Darren Cruikshank's around us because I'm dying of laughter. He's so funny, but listen, he's like a lot of fighters out there. I don't know if you want to look at the Diaz brothers as an example, but he's one of those guys that, wait a second, I'm allowed to go in the ring, beat the crap out of somebody, and soccer kick them and get paid? Sign me up. So that's the kind of fighter that, some people love, some people hate, but it's one of those things where it's like, and he's going to have his hands full with Goldie. Yamaguchi's no joke. It's going to be a fun fight, but Darren's got to be pinpoint accurate. He's got to watch his base and just do what he's got to do because Yamaguchi will figure this out. He can figure it out real quick, and it could be a quick night or it could be a situation where there's going to be a lot of pain, a lot of punishment. And, if Darren can, it's almost one of those things sometimes when you look at a fight, because anything can happen in a fight. We know that.
Right.
But pinpoint accuracy, target practice, right? Just keep going, keep chipping away until the finish presents itself. Then you go in there. And, other than that, show up. And we know Darren's got heart, right? So let him go in there and do his thing.
Well, I'm going to be talking to Darren later on today, actually. It'll be the first time I've spoken to him on camera. And so I'm looking forward to that. Everyone said the same thing, awesome. that he's really funny. And his losses were to Damian Brown, where he was winning that fight and then got caught in the guillotine. And then Tofik Musayev, right? That was who he lost to last time. And that was a super competitive fight. I was talking to Johnny Case, and he said that reviewing all of Tofik's tapes, that was probably the closest anyone's ever been to beating him.
Yeah, I think Tofik also kind of took his time knowing full well what Darren brings to the table. You're one head kick away from a really bad night. So, and look at, the fact that Cruikshank lost to him is okay because most people don't know who Musayev is yet. So that's that one knock. Like, no one knows who he is. This guy could win the tournament. So, Darren's not going to feel bad because bottom line, Darren's not going to sit there and be upset over it. He's just, he's upset if it's a bad decision. If it's a bad decision or a situation, or it's like, or if he made a mistake. For example, he's made mistakes in some of his fights where you're like, no, don't do that. And he gets caught.
Damian Brown fight was, he made that mistake by going for the takedown when he was winning, slipped into a guillotine. And so,
but it's simple for us though, right?
Yeah, right.
We're not getting punched in the face. Your brain's not getting rattled. Like you're going to make mistakes at some point, right? But Cruikshank's so awesome.
No, and like you said, I admire all these fighters. I mean, we all have biases as fans, but literally that's why I like Rizin so much, is because it's so it's not so polarizing. Like, there's not any fighters that I hate. I mean, I don't hate fighters anyway, but fighters that I don't like to watch or that are boring. The matchmakers do a really good job. It's always, and so I find myself a lot of times just sitting here not rooting for anybody, which is different as a fan, because a lot of times you'll turn on Bellator or Titan or UFC or something, and you're rooting for somebody. Are you still doing Titan FC?
No. I was stopped doing Titan earlier this year. I think it was April or May. I think it was.
And so, are you doing anything else MMA related?
Nope, just Rizin. It's good enough for me, man. I've got a very successful business that continues to grow over here. Rizin is sort of my only MMA thing that I have right now, and I don't really want to give it up because I absolutely love going to Japan. I love calling the fights because the fights are super exciting, right? It's not that people would think, oh, you're taking a shot at the UFC. I'll never take a shot at the UFC, but it's just it is what it is right now, and this is where my life is right now, where my career is right now, and I absolutely love calling Rizin. I don't think I'll be leaving anytime soon. But yeah, I mean, the Rizin stuff is absolutely fantastic. It sucks you got to travel 12 hours to get there, but hey, listen, it is what it is, right?
Well, and then flying back so soon is rough too.
Yeah.
I mean, geez, you're calling the fights, and then the very next, do you get to go out on New Year's Eve and
oh man, we try. Like yeah, it depends on Trigg and his wife. If we want to go out, usually it's 50-50. Depends on when the show is over. Sometimes we actually stay at the venue to do the countdown, and then usually when you get back, it's like you realize if you end up going out, really, you're getting home at 4 a.m. Right. You got to leave the next day, right? So you got to check out of the room, and you got to wait for your shuttle or your bus, whatever. So it's usually 50-50. I mean, you've known me long enough. I'm that guy that'll sit in his room, no problem. I got Netflix. As long as I got Wi-Fi, I can work. I can do whatever, right? So I can relax.
You can go back to the hotel and watch that Bellator Japan show. That's what I could do.
Yeah, right. So for sure.
You had just mentioned the countdown. We don't see that a lot on Fight TV. I think we've only seen it once or twice. That's what it's like because all the fighters get in the ring, correct?
Yeah, it depends. It depends on where we are. But generally speaking, if the show does run late, they ask all the fighters to come in to the ring. They've got the streamers going and stuff like that when the countdown is done. It depends on where we are because as soon as the event is over, we're trying to find out, like, get on the bus now to get to the hotel because it's about 45 minutes from Saitama to where our hotel is. So we don't know, like, because there's 2 buses that leave, right? So do you get on the first bus or do you get on the second bus or are we staying? So we don't know. We don't know until after the event, timing and stuff like that. So we kind of wait because nobody wants to be on a bus during the countdown.
Right.
And so
is that because Saitama is a business district and why your hotel's so far away, or what's the deal there?
Where you generally stay in Tokyo, it's more of a business district. Saitama is another prefecture. It's another town sort of thing, but inside Tokyo sort of thing. I don't know my geography very well or to explain it very well, but it's just the distance of getting back. It's a 45-minute drive, even that late at night. So you want to make sure that the Japanese are always so courteous. They want to make sure that you are always enjoying yourself, that you're always taken care of, that you never have a complaint whatsoever. They go out of their way to make sure you are smiling ear to ear from the minute you get there to the minute that you leave. So they understand that if it's 11:30, don't get on the bus.
Right.
There's no point because you're going to be at the countdown. You got 10 minutes to get to the hotel. If it's 10:30, get on the bus, go back to the hotel, do whatever you want. If it's 11:40, show just ended, let's just stay here.
Stay there, yeah. Well, and you had mentioned something that, again, fighters, Jared Brooks, for example, he talked about, again, not hating on the UFC. He just said that in Rizin, it's a totally different show. Jay Kuhn, Johnny Case, all these guys explain that have been in the UFC or been in the Ultimate Fighter House, talk about how it's just a totally different experience. Again, with the fans, how respectful they are, but also how they're really trying to please you all the time. Do you get that too? I mean, do you have your own fans there? I'm sure you do.
Not many. I mean, it's one of those things because the fans there tune into the Japanese broadcast. It's totally different for me because you're not getting that many Americans or Canadians or international fans that are showing up that would kind of recognize me or know my voice, right? So, and above all, I walk around just like a normal dude, right? Like I'll come out of the elevator like this and make my way to breakfast or whatever. So if anyone wants to stop and talk to me or get a picture, it's happened before. Yeah, of course, no problem. But I'm not a Japanese star per se, where they're, I'll walk out of the elevator and there's an Asakura brother here, an Asakura brother there, Horiguchi there. They don't care about me, dude. They don't care about me.
I can't blame them. I like you, Joe, but I'd be the same.
Yeah, go see the fighters, man. That's what you're here for. You're not here for me. You're here to see these athletes, these stars. I'm just a dude that talks. Right?
What about walking around with Trigg? Surely he's a little more recognized.
He gets recognized. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, he gets recognized a fair amount. Even when whether it was Trigg or whether it was Heath Herring, obviously because he's such a huge dude, he's going to get recognized. And whenever Heath and I would go out for lunches or dinners, we would get stopped, and even the chefs would come over. Right, Trigg gets recognized. Because they look at the fighters as samurais and warriors, and people that go in there like. It goes back to so many different fighters from back in the day, from Inoki to the next generation down. They look at these humans as athletes, and they're so grateful to them. I'm a nobody. I just got a microphone, I got a headset on, and I just call it for the international audience, right? So I've come to accept that there's no ego here where I'm sitting there, how come no one's asking me for an autograph? You don't want my autograph.
Well, hey, you know what? Like you said, you're lucky to be there. That's how I would feel. You could put me behind a black curtain as long as I could see the the fighting going on. I don't care where I'm at. What was it you that told me that you've done a Rizin from off-site or a Titan FC or something from off-site?
It was Rizin, yeah. We did a couple of shows, I think 2 or 3 shows, where they flew us all the way to Japan to have us in a studio to call the fights. And it was more what it really was a logistics when operations-wise in setting up the booth or setting up the broadcast table. There were a few events where they weren't able to do that to get the broadcast going, the feed in and the feed out. The only way they could do it is via the studio. So it got to the point where I looked at them and I said, well, we probably could be saving a lot of money if you just put me in a studio in Toronto, Trigg in a studio in LA or Heath at the time, or vice versa. It's probably cheaper for me to fly to LA or one of them to fly to Toronto, put us in a studio there. But again, we ran through the numbers and stuff like that. Then eventually it got to the point where they're like, no, man, we need you two in the venue. We need you in the arena. I said, that's where we want to be.
Yeah, that's where you want to be.
Right, well, and then when it finally happened, we loved it, right? So,
I bet you it's so much more exciting. I mean, I know just from watching it on TV, I stay up all night, 6, 7 in the morning. I'm still up, and it's exciting. But I'll be going to a Rizin next year, and I absolutely just can't wait.
It's totally different. It's totally different, man. Totally different live. It's unbelievable.
And did you happen to catch Deep Impact this weekend?
No, I haven't. No.
You should watch it. Koji Takada defended his belt, and then of course Roki Martinez fought and defended his
jumping
belt.
knee.
Yeah, he had a jumping knee. I messaged him afterwards, and I said, "Who knew you could jump like that, Roki?
That guy's the best. Going on?" He's so funny. I see him and his crew all the time. It depends where we are, which city we're in. But rest assured, you're going to find his crew and me somewhere either at breakfast or at the convenience store looking for something to either eat or whatever. And he's hilarious. And the one thing about Roki that I love absolutely is he's not one of those guys that he walks around like he's holier than thou. Dude, when he sees you, he'll just look you right in the eye and he beelines right to you, shakes your hand. How are you? How's things? Blah, blah. Trying to convince me to go to Guam and stuff like that. But he's a genuine guy. Yeah. And, as we've grown in this industry of mixed martial arts over the past 2 decades, I've noticed you're starting to lose a lot of that, right? A lot of these fighters who've never done anything with their careers are walking around like they're holier than thou. And look at me, I'm, dude, you're not George St. Pierre.
Right.
Like, stop. George, George texts me or calls me whenever, right? And he was, a pay-per-view superstar. He's still a down-home, chill-out guy. And Roki's one of those guys that no matter what, even if Darren is bombarded with fans, Crookshank, he'll kind of give me that look, that little wink, the acknowledgement, right? And I know my role. Don't step in there and try and shake his hand when there's a bunch of fans in there. Horiguchi, who can barely communicate with me, always has the bow when he sees me, right? It's just very humble, very kind. And I like those types of fighters that remain humble, they've got that humility in them, and not the ones that are like, look at me, I'm a badass. Okay, well, yeah, we know you're a badass. You're a mixed martial artist, but be humble, man.
Yeah, well, and I couldn't say enough nice things about Roki. Again, he's just a guy who every time is giving me nothing but great time, But I mean, sometimes during the Risings, we'll be texting back and forth.
Yeah,
he's calling the fights for me, and I'm laughing my ass off. He's a great guy. Speaking of, let's go a couple more fights on this Bellator card. We had Michael Chandler against Benson Henderson, but Benson Henderson got injured. I believe it was his knee. So in steps Sydney Outlaw. What do you think about that fight? Have you watched Outlaw fight much?
Yeah, I've seen a fight. It's one of those things, though. It's like now you're taking on, Michael Chandler, and that dude is no joke, and he's extremely explosive. But Outlaw's, he's got 14 wins. I think I'm pretty sure he's got 14 wins.
14
around, right? I mean, yeah, you took out Huerta, but you went to the decision with Huerta. Okay, that's in my opinion, you should have finished him. My opinion, right? But at the same time, you take a look at some of the stuff that he's done in the past. He'll submit you, right? He's got the skills to submit anybody. Okay, he's got the cardio, right? And you're gonna have to withstand likely a situation from Chandler where it's gonna be a lot of pressure. Maybe he wants Chandler to take him down on the ground.
Well, and I worry about that because he just fought Huerta in end of October, I think.
Middle of November.
Yes, well, geez, that's really short notice. And an MVP got added to this card, which I think is really interesting. He fights Shinsho Anzai, and that's a really good fight. One of the fights I could tell you that and maybe fans are sleeping on it, as far as the main card, which is in the cage, by the way. The main Bellator card is going to be in the cage. But is Alara Joanne against Kana Watanabe. Watanabe is unbelievable. Every time I've watched her fight, she improves. Whether it's Deep Jewels or Rizin, she has improved every single time. And then she looks like a tank. I mean, she is unbelievably conditioned. That's going to be a great fight for the fans. Lorenz Larkin and Keitaro Nakamura. Do you think that this fight, if Keitaro could beat him, do you think it's possible that they throw him in the Bellator title fight? Because Coker did say that Larkin was one win away from a championship.
But now it's tough, right? Because Larkin's one win away, and all of a sudden his stock value would drop. And do they really look at Nakamura and say, okay, is he as a promoter, right? As a promoter in general, not always, but in general, when you start promoting guys, you want to have guys that are going to make sure, or girls, a fighter in general that's going to help promote as well, right? And Larkin's got that not the it factor like a Conor McGregor, but he's got that factor that he can promote himself, right? And Nakamura can do it, right? And he's a bit crazy at times, but you definitely want to have someone that's going to be in the title picture, that's going to cause some havoc, and that's going to raise awareness globally, right? Because Bellator isn't a Japanese brand. They're a global brand, right? But predominantly, North American or European, right? It's a matter of, okay, do we have a guy, Nakamura, now that could potentially become a champion? Be difficult, to be honest with you, because look at the champ now.
Right, yeah.
Right? So it's one of those things where you have to sort of analyze it, but sometimes you got to make a call and say, you know what? Dude deserves a title shot. Get her done. Let's do it.
Right. And so you spoke on the champion. Would you agree that Douglas Lima is top 3 in the world at least?
Absolutely.
I mean, if you put him in against the Colby Covington Usman winner, which ended up being Usman, don't you think Lima probably wins that fight?
Could be an interesting scenario. I think you'd have a harder time. Both those two guys would be a very difficult fight. But Douglas is a warrior, and he's very methodical in everything he does. He doesn't care about what's happening pre-fight. He wants to get into the cage or the ring and get the job done. And I think he's very systematic. I believe he won the first fight with Rory.
Yeah.
I scored it for him from the beginning. And when I had the podcast with Fightful at the time, I kept saying, dude, he won that fight. In a rematch, he'll win it. Believe me, he'll win it. Now Rory's gone to PFL, so yeah.
Right. You're not doing the Fightful podcast anymore?
No. Fightful's done.
So you're just focused on work and Rizin, huh?
Yeah. Well, listen, man. So the career change for me happened when my TV show went off the air, and then at its core, because I still got people messaging me all the time saying, why aren't you doing more MMA? Why aren't you doing? Well, listen, no pun intended. I'm a mortgage agent. Mm-hmm. I got a mortgage to pay, right? So where's the money coming from? At the very minimum, I'm the one that's got to look at my wife's eyes and my son's eyes and say, yeah, daddy's making bread. Daddy's putting food on the table. where is it coming from?
Right.
Now, if all of a sudden I start getting paid or all these gigs from MMA and they were superseding my other business, well, yeah, of course you'll be seeing a lot more of me. But at its core, I've got to survive as well. So with Rizin paying me what they pay me, which is amazing, and then of course my other job here, and I work from home. People don't realize that. I chose not to have an office. I don't want an office. Why am I going to be paying rent when I can just work from home? And in my area, Greater Toronto area is huge. So I love what I do, and and Rizin keeps me very, very satisfied, happy. Even though they're long flights, and family misses me, I miss them. I'm missing New Year's again with my friends and family, but they get it. They understand. This is my love and my passion. I'm still going to be doing it. So,
and it's not that many times a year. I feel the same as you. I get to work from home the majority of the time as a computer tech, and it's it's so much better. I couldn't do a 9 to 5 and do this podcast because, like you said, I just wouldn't be able to do it. But I think that when fans ask me about you and why you're not talking about things, I think it goes to show how much people enjoy to have you talk about MMA. Because even having you on this podcast, I could talk to you about the previous UFC. I could talk to you about last month's Bellator. But let's move on a little bit. Fedor Emelianenko against Quinton Rampage Jackson, a fight that's 14 years in the making,
right?
I mean, like you said, those pride tapes under your desk there.
I bet you I could pull out some Rampage and Fedor fights.
That should have been one of them. I think that a lot of fans look at this fight. Would you agree that they're both at about the same stage of their career, and it would be just as competitive now as it would have been back then?
Are they at the same stage of their career? I think Fedor's hit the horizon earlier. Rampage, due to inactivity, you can probably make that assessment as well. I'm trying to think back in the day because Pride did have fights where there were, weight classes were just non-existent. It felt like that, right?
Right.
I think just because the whole Fedor was the heavyweight champ, Quinton was I guess you can say light heavyweight champ back then.
It was middleweight, I think.
Yeah, middleweight. Yeah. So putting them together would have been fun, but there was no. I don't think I'm trying to jog my memory back then. There was no real. I mean, I could be wrong, but there was no real initiative or that want to have those two fight back then, right? But now there's that. They both got that pride, invisible tattoo all over themselves. That let's do this. Let's do this in Japan, right? So. Would it have been great back then? I think it would have been far better back then, only because they were in their prime.
Right.
And I don't think Quinton really wanted Fedor in his prime, but now has the opportunity to take advantage of a guy that's long in the tooth, that's been around, still has the power to knock you out. If he puts you on your back and he can use that ground and pound, it can get ugly. Because Fedor's explosive, right? Speed's not there. Explosiveness sort of is, but not the speed that he had before. He's got the power, but both, Fedor, you always feel like, he's one, Dan Henderson's got that punching power and some other guys do as well, but, he's susceptible. He's older. He's a human, right? Father Time gets the best of anybody, right? So, but either way, this fight's going to be fantastic because, Quinton's not going to want to go to the ground and Fedor's going to do whatever it takes to win. And if it means taking Quinton down to the ground, sorry, Rampage, you're going down to the ground. It's MMA. Right. So, but I think it happened because Fedor's an overhand right away from flattening Quinton. Right. So,
well, and I think in Fedor's later stages, if I have one criticism, which of course he's the greatest of all time, right? I mean, or one of them, and he could use his sambo and his judo a little bit more. He was so good at that. I think people forgot in Pride he had just as many submissions as he did knockouts. Right. Yeah. And people always looked at him as his knockout specialist, but really he was excellent on the ground as well.
Hey, he was fantastic. Go look at the Matt Lindland fight. People might say it was an illegal technique, but the Matt Lindland fight, I forgot where it was, but it was in a ring. And when Lindland was able to clinch, and in midair, while being thrown, Fedor was able to reverse it. Like the guy is something else back then, right? He's unbelievable. So,
and of course the Randleman slam, nobody will ever forget that, where he got slammed on his head.
Insane. Just insane.
Reversed it, and he was in an arm lock right away. So that Bellator Japan is amazing. You mentioned Andy Wynn. She fights Ai Shimizu. Do you see this girl like I do as far as an up-and-coming superstar?
Yeah. She's fantastic. Yeah.
And she trains with Crazy B, and of course protege Miyu Yamamoto. Jared Brooks and Hiroshi, two of the best strawweights in the world. We don't have strawweight men's division in Bellator or in UFC. would it be fair to say that these are two of the top 5 strawweights in the world?
100%. Yeah, I mean, Jared Brooks, that dude operates in a different frequency. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. He is funny, but I'm just kind of like, I think I'm going to get out of this scenario. I'm not going to be around you too long because you are operating in a completely different frequency than most human beings around me. He's hilarious. He had the fanny pack the last time I saw him. I'm like, I got to go. Flip-flops and socks. I don't get it. But he just doesn't care. He's got so much energy. Like, you can't calm this guy down. I'm like, dude, you got to relax, man. Like, nope. He's just 100 miles an hour. And I'm like, all right, can't wait. Then the fight, the last time he fought, it lasted all of 8 seconds, 6 seconds. It sucked. So, here we go. Let's see what they have. But yeah, I mean, his skill set's something else.
He told me, because I talked to him, and once again, it was like I did like an hour and a half with him. It was almost like I was the one who had to go, right? Yeah. which rarely happens. But he told me that they didn't put Vaseline on them before that fight.
Oh, really?
That's what he had said, that he was really surprised, because that was his first fight in Rizin, but they usually do, right?
I'm trying to remember if they do. I think they do. Yeah, that's weird. That's very strange. Yeah.
And because he had said he thought if there was Vaseline on the heads that cut wouldn't happen.
Yeah, that's a very good point actually by Jared, right? It's a very good point because, it's weird. People laugh about the Vaseline thing because people do. I mean, I used to remember back in the day, Anderson Silva, after the Vaseline, right? He would just kind of do this, right? And then do this on his shoulders. I'm like, whoa. GSP gate or grease gate, whatever they were calling it with BJ Penn, and 2 fights later, a fight later, you're doing that. No one's saying anything?
Right.
Come on, man. I know you're the GOAT, but what's going on here, right? But that Vaseline is so important, not only just for the skin, but, it helps the fighters. And maybe that was a scenario that could have helped out. Maybe let's go back to Ian McCall with the whole situation with his head against the ropes. Maybe that could have helped, right?
Yeah, and that's why I wondered that. Then it seems like I've watched them put Vaseline on their face, but after you mentioned that, I was just like, whoa, I need to talk. I'll ask another fighter about that. And so that fight's going to be great. Of course, we got Sergey Shemtov. Have you watched him fight? Shemtov, Vitaly's brother. I mean, those guys are crazy, right? They were standing outside the arena, Trigg was telling me, and lobbying the fans. I mean, they literally got into Rizin by just protesting.
Awesome. They did what they had to do to get in there, and they did successfully. Now, it wasn't exactly an easy debut in Rizin, but good for them. And now you got a second chance. Now let's see. You got to get that win to continue what you're doing. Right. So
another person who's in that situation is Kana Asakura. I feel like she needs another win. She fights at Jamie Henshaw. Do we have a reserve bout for Rizin 20 lightweight Grand Prix?
That was the question I asked before I left the last show, and they would get back to me and say, we probably got something almost kind of figured out, but nothing that I was told that, this is actually happening, because if you look at up and down the card, there's no other lightweight fight, really.
Well, no, and when I talked to Johnny Case, he said that maybe it was going to be Hiroto Yusako against Yusuke Yachi, but that's on the 29th, and I know that, they wanted it to be fair. They've always done that. It's fair. You have to fight on the same night if you're going to be a reserve.
Yeah, and that was the thing that I was talking about before, not with you, but just in general. I'm like, you got to have it on the same night, right? You got to be able to do it in the same night. First thing, get those fights first thing at the beginning of the card, which will allow the other guys or the winners to rest. The other thing that might happen, which could happen, is the loser of one of the fights can step up. Again, it would suck, but that could be an option. If the winner of the first fight, for example, gets his hand broken or has an injury, can't continue, maybe the loser moves on. But what happens if the loser was knocked out?
You look at what happens if there's a cut like Hiroto got in the first one on his eyelid. That's not the Horiguchi cut that he got during his Grand Prix. That was able to be stitched up. That the cuts on the eyelid. Right.
Surprises will come.
You're right.
It's December 19th. We still got 2 weeks. Who knows what's going to happen, right? They are. Dude, I've left Toronto and landed, and my phone blows up with new information. I'm like, okay, hopefully no one's going to call me on this one, right? Like, what's going on here, right? So they know what they're doing. They're smart about it.
Well, that's why I told Jamie Henshaw. She's like, I'm not really sure. I've heard some fighters say we're fighting in a cage, and I said, you know what? It's Rizin. You might get there and be surprised. There might be a ring and a cage. Nobody knows.
Right.
What do you, Miyu Yamamoto and Amp the Rocket? That's going to be an excellent fight. Miyu Yamamoto fought in a title eliminator against Ham, of course.
Yep.
That was a really good fight, but I feel like Miyu is still developing in both her striking, but her submission defense has gotten way better. Would you say that that's the key to this fight? Because Amtha Rocket almost submitted the champion.
Yeah, well, the champ's just something else, though, right? Like she's special. Hamasaki is just absolutely special. I think, based on how Miyu fights, she's going to have to clinch and control and just be aware of the submissions. And the one thing Miyu's got to get, because she's so powerful. She's such she's got that functional strength that is ridiculous. Start using those hammer fists. Hammer fists. You can generate the power in your hammer fists to finish these girls. You can do it. Just got to execute it. Her striking has come a long way. It's getting better and better. But you are right. Even though she's considered older for MMA in general, she's still developing, right? So it just takes time. And I hope she doesn't. It's one of those situations where even though she's at that age, you hope that she doesn't get overcoached before a fight. You know what I'm saying? Let her breathe. Let her do her thing. Let her do her. Let her compete. She's going to rely on her wrestling the minute she gets in trouble. Use it. Control. Keep your opponent down and go.
Well, because like you said, her being an older woman, she's excellent. I mean, she trains really hard. I know this, trains again with Rocky Martinez down in Guam and stuff, and they train hard. I mean, these people, they send videos.
I bug her all the time. I'm like, you need to come home, because she lived in Toronto, right?
Oh, okay.
She lived
when she was a wrestler, right?
Yeah, she was part of a section of Toronto by the lakes called the Beaches. So it's a nice area, and because you see the Canada flag on her shorts all the time, right? So I keep bugging her. She's like, and the first thing she says, the first thing she's going to ask me when I get there, is it snowing over there? Yep. I don't miss it. I don't miss it, Joe. I said, I know. I don't blame you. It sucks. It's cold. So, but yeah,
have you been to Guam?
What's that?
Have you been to Guam?
Oh, I want to go so bad. Wow. I think I'll get fat if I go there. Right? I know it's all delicious, organic. You got fruits and vegetables, but you can't put me in a sun. I got to train.
No, and then Rocky Martinez invited me out there, and he said the first thing we'll do is have a big old barbecue, and I'm like, that will be the first and the last thing I do.
Dude, you have a barbecue with Rocky and Miyu and John Talk. You're not moving. You're find a chair or find some shade under a tree, because you're not moving. There's no chance.
And another good Taiju Shiratori. It's a kickboxing match against Taiga. That first fight, what did you think about round 3? Did you feel like Taiju was getting tired? What happened in round 3?
Yeah, I think he was. But at this point, it is what it is, right? It is what it is. But Taiga's got the length. He's got the speed. It's going to be one of those fights where, because kickboxing is so fast and the rounds are so short, right? You almost feel like if they would add another minute or two, the fight could change, right? And it's, how many times have we seen guys in the last 10 seconds go there for the second or third knockout, kind of go there, and the opponent survives. Then they go into the corner, they're exhausted, then the opponent comes back and flips it around, right? So, again, but that's a cool part of kickboxing, right? So, when it comes to calling those fights, it's just kind of like, let it go, unless it's tension. Tension is just...
Yeah, it's something else. That tension and Horiguchi fight is still one of my favorite kickboxing fights ever. The atmosphere in that arena was unbelievable. As far as calling the kickboxing fights, have you called a lot of kickboxing in your life?
Not as much as MMA. No. I know my very first, boxing was the first thing I got into when I was in my martial arts career. And then it was kickboxing. It was more of American kickboxing. Then I got into jiu-jitsu, followed by Muay Thai, and then mixed it all up together. So I know kickboxing per se, right? I know the techniques, I know the distance, and I'm not, Trigg knows much more than I do. But not really my job to break down the fights unless I see something specific that I want to have Trigg sort of explain. The weird thing is, when you call tensions fights, it's almost like you get an advanced, quick education of, oh my goodness, how does this kid just take that distance and make it like nothing, right? He's able to get in there fast and stuff like that. And, whenever I used to break down a lot of striking or Muay Thai for MMA on my TV show, I would call Firas Zahabi up. I'd ask George about his, George was really a big fan of fencing, as an example. And we talk about distance and stuff like that. One of my original instructors was actually in the UFC, Antonio Carvalho. He had a specific way of competing, closing distance, getting out, using your triangles, using your angles, making sure you're in and out, and then going in there for the finish. And Shao Franco, our original instructor, was a master karateka, and he was one of those guys that took all the different stand-up arts and taught us all specific ways of how to deal with specific opponents who are strong with their jab, strong with their lead kick, strong with their teep, strong with their combinations, and how to compete against them. So, and that's what I take whenever I call fights, right? So,
would you say, and you just mentioned Firas Zahabi, maybe you're a little bit biased, but would you say he's one of the best coaches ever?
Yeah.
I mean, from the outside,
bias is one thing, but him, Greg Jackson, there's John Crouch is one of those guys who's underestimated. But there's so many guys that we don't even know. Mark Henry, he doesn't get any love whatsoever sometimes, right? There's a lot of good, but the one thing about Firas, is he's got a degree in philosophy. Okay, so he breaks things down. John Danaher. John Danaher, when it comes to jiu-jitsu, is just
unbelievable. Yeah,
on a different level, like on a different, like I can't even explain to you. He's a sage. Like the guy he's a guru. He's just completely. And whenever I would be lucky enough to sit down with Firas and John or George or whomever was there, dude, I didn't open my mouth. It was just like, please have me memorize and just remember every single nuance of what they are talking about, because it is insane what I am listening to, things I never even thought of when it comes to fighting. And I'm just absorbing. And then I would see it in one of their fights, and I would see it in this, and I'm like, man, what a different level. Like some of the stuff that John would tell me about when George fought BJ the second time, little nuances about the side control position and what to do when BJ has clinch work, and how George was using the underhooks and had BJ trying to break the underhooks, and he was just carrying that weight, and his shoulders were getting inflamed. It was science in MMA. And I'm like, people have no idea what's happening in this world, how advanced these guys are.
Well, and I didn't know you had that relationship with Firas, but I watch his post-fight and pre-fight breakdowns. His podcast is unbelievable. I didn't know that he was a philosophy major, but it makes sense now watching him, because he's excellent to listen to. I feel like I could listen to that guy read a book, and I would learn something from it, Yeah,
he's ridiculous. And plus his kids punched me in the face whenever I saw them. So whenever we get to the house, so his beautiful wife Melissa would have us over, whatever, and they have mats in the living room. Right, and the kids are older now, but I used to sit there and trying to talk to Firas or Melissa, and the boys are just scrapping it out on the floor. I'm like looking around, going, "Do you not care about the furniture here? Because something's gonna break here." Oh, they're fine. And I'm like, ah. And one time, one of his youngest just slapped me in the face to say hi. I'm like, I don't think you should be doing that to an adult. And then Firas looked at me and goes, "You want to fight him?" No, but
no, I don't.
That was a good slap. I'll admit that. So yeah, really. Great family, man. Just a great guy, great family, great overall. Everything about the Zahabis are absolutely amazing.
We were speaking of tension. He's fighting Ryo Abada, who won the King in knockout. This is probably tension's toughest task in Rizin so far, would you think?
Minus Mayweather, but yeah. That's one of those things.
That wasn't even fair.
Mayweather that was, but it just goes to show you how good Mayweather is, right? Like, it's just unbelievable. But Ibata is going to be a good challenge for tension, but it just seems that tension has a way of figuring guys out. It might take him to the third round, right? Unless he just sees something earlier. But other than that, I mean, it's tough. Okay, it's tough for Rizin, and it's tough for tension, and it's tough for everybody around both parties, because what do you do? Right. I mean, there's only really one guy that tension should be fighting, and he's with one, right? So you really can't set up that fight. So Ibata's the next guy available, and Ibata's going to do whatever he can to derail that hype train, quote unquote, that is tension, because Nasukawa is something special. The guy is unbelievable, right? So I always look at it this way. I doubt the fight will go the distance. I always find that Nasukawa will be able to figure him out some way, somehow. But fight's a fight, dude. Anything can happen.
Would you say he's the biggest star in Japan, fighting wise?
Yeah, I think so. Because Horiguchi's been able to build it. The Asakuras now are doing really, really good. Do you know how much they get paid for their YouTube stuff?
I heard it's a ridiculous amount. I mean, Mikaru said that he's only going to fight twice a year because it's some tens of thousands a month or something.
Isn't that insane?
What in the world? I'm in the wrong business, Joe.
Right? Like, it's insane the amount of. When I got back to the hotel, was it the last event or the event before? Maybe 2 events ago. It was in a Bentley. I don't know if it was his pal that was driving it or if it was his.
No. He on the new confessions, he was at a juvenile detention center, and they asked him what he drove, and he said he drives a Bentley. I mean, And he's only 10 fights into his career. He said Rizin pays him real good.
Which, they get paid good, but when you listen, you get paid good from Rizin, and you're saying you're only going to fight twice a year because you're making all that bread from YouTube. God damn, you're doing good, man. You're doing good. Both those guys are doing good. Good for them, man. I fell in love with those two a long time ago. We're trying to profess to everybody. Listen, in North America, we got the Diaz brothers. In Japan, they got the Asakura brothers. Those guys are nuts. Follow their story. This is a movie. These guys are a movie coming from the outsiders to where they are now, to what Kai did to Horiguchi, man. That's some real crazy storylines there. These guys are amazing.
I'm on the same line. I've been watching those guys since the outsiders, and they're both impressive. They again get better every single time out. Mikuru's got kind of a tough test against this John Macapa. Have you seen him fight much?
Yeah.
He's good. Well, I think Mikuru's probably going to win the fight just because Mikuru, I think, is the better of the two fighters, just because Kai gets a little bit wild with his punches. We saw him lose to Jae-Hoon Moon back in Road FC, right? Yeah. And he swings a little wide, whereas it seems Mikuru's a lot more tight with his defense, but Kai's also gotten a lot better since that fight, right?
Of course, for sure, right? You took it Horiguchi, you're damn good, right? But Mikuru's more of the scientist of the two, right? He'll detect the analysis, the analyst, and kind of breaks things down. And you can tell Kai kind of looks at him the way Nate looks at Nick, right? Like whatever the big brother says is what we're going to do. And, sometimes I would watch the confessions and I'm like, Mikuru, you're just being arrogant. You don't know. And then you see them unfold and do what they do. And you're like, shut up, Joe. These guys know what they're doing. They are badasses, and they're scientists when it comes to fighting. They're able to find that little thing. They're consistent with it. And, Mikuru's always said he doesn't like when his brother gets wild. Like you just said, don't get wild. You got to remain focused. The opportunity will present itself. Shoot, I sound like I'm coaching soccer tonight, so I've been telling my boys, stop with the rushing of the ball up the field. Slow down, down. Right. But it's so true, man. You got all that time in the world, even if it's just 15 minutes in a ring. It's happening so quick. Just be patient. The opportunity will present itself. You're going to see what we've been training, and when you see it, that's when you capitalize. If you don't capitalize on it, we got a problem.
Well, it's interesting that you said that about his older brother and being there, because it's the only time that he's ever lost was when Mikuru wasn't in his corner, right? And so that seems to affect a lot of fighters, only having not having your normal guys in your corner. Speaking of that Kai Asakura fight, though, he's fighting Manel Kape. Manel Kape has probably progressed as much as anybody in Rizin since the 2017 Grand Prix. What did you think about the first fight? Did you go back and watch it or score it?
Yeah.
It
was what it was, right? I'm still going to enjoy it. But Manel Kape, in my opinion, how do I word this correctly? Because he's so talented. It's almost like he's almost trigger shy because he's felt the pain. He realizes that, we get the gimmick. I understand the gimmick. But once you're in there, you got to figure it out.
Right.
But he's able to, what he did to Mizugaki. Again, Mizugaki's been around, right? But the way that walk-off knockout was just something special to behold, right?
Yeah.
But now you're fighting Asakura. At some point, I keep telling people, I've been saying it for years, these guys are human, okay? If you can eliminate or remove the fact that they're fighters, that they're trained mixed martial artists, they're killers, let's be honest, okay? They're still humans. And when I say they're still humans, the mind can be extremely fragile. Okay, the mind, the smallest thing, if you can't control your thoughts, something negative comes in your mind. If you can't prevent yourself from rethinking or refocusing, the smallest thing can change the outcome of what we think can be an easy fight for somebody, right? Because I've seen favorites in the UFC back in the day lose on fight night because they had a squall or they had a situation with their girlfriend, or they had a problem with a friend, or they had a situation where their coach and him disagreed on something that happened the night before, or at breakfast. Anxiety, and anxiety causes you to deplete the water in your system. You're going to the bathroom 6-7 times the day of the fight. You're dehydrated. Now you're trying to gulp down water or whatever nutritional drink that you can get into you, and now you're feeling full because anything can happen. So with Manel Kape, now you're looking at Asakura, a guy that you firmly believe you can beat, who's just taken down Horiguchi. You're now fighting for the vacant Rizin Bantamweight Championship. You're fighting for a title versus the guy that should be the champion, technically speaking. Like, all these things go into your head. Or does Manel act the way he talks? I don't care. I'm going to beat this kid up, take that belt home.
Right. And I feel like we've seen both. I really like Manel a lot, but I feel like we've seen both sides of him with that. I mean, like you mentioned the Mizugaki fight, I felt like in round 1 he was real tentative. I was like, get this guy out of there, Manel. Like, you're a much better fighter than him at this stage of your career. But like you said, that boxing combination he had was something of beauty. I've watched that 100 times.
Yeah.
So that was great. Couple more on this card, and I'll let you go. Jerry Prohaska in a title fight against CB Dollaway. This kind of was unexpected. When is the last time we saw Dollaway fight? Do you remember?
The last time I saw Dollaway in person was a while ago. But I mean, he competed. He lost. Who was it? Russian kid? No, he lost in Russia. I know that.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with at least a year or two ago. Maybe a year.
Yeah. Right? Let me look that up real quick. What do you think about his chances in that fight?
He's always got a chance. His wrestling is fantastic. He's just got to, Yuri's going to have reach on him, in my opinion. If I don't, like, CB is taller than people than people realize, but Prohaska's younger. If I'm not mistaken, he's younger. At the same time, he's one of those guys that, he's not going to go away. He's going to have to keep his guard up because CB still has a bit of explosiveness in him, but he's got to be smart about it. And I think Prohaska, if he uses his reach and his distance, will probably surprise Dollaway. What if Dollaway comes in not giving this guy any respect? He will, but not enough respect per se. Right. Could be an ugly night for CB Dollaway, but anything can happen, right? And I mean, I'm looking at Prohaska as the favorite right now, but we'll see what happens.
And CB Dollaway did fight last 2018 in November at a UFC Fight Night 136, and he lost via retirement on the stool, I guess, round 2. So,
was that in Russia?
No, I don't know where Fight Night 136 was. Let me see here. But that was November or September of 2018. It was Hunt against Olenek. Yeah, in Moscow.
Joe,
look at you.
I try.
And the thing I think is that because the Bader fight couldn't be made, Dollaway trains with Bader, right? So I wonder if there's something there, and he might be the toughest wrestler outside of King Mo that Jerry has fought in.
That's the thing, though. So if Dollaway can get this fight down on the ground and control Prohaska, you don't want to see him go win by decision. You want to see him finish, right? It is Rizin, but we're not the one stepping into the ring. We're not the one getting a shin to the mouth. Right?
That's right. Well, and I think the last Rizin or whatever it was 14 bouts. I think 12 of them ended inside the distance. I mean, we had 2 decisions, I believe. I always tell when we do our Rizin preview show with some friends, I always, do the over-under on how many, will there be more than 50% finishes? I take the over every time. It just seems like in Rizin, you always get more finishes than not. Jake Hune and Satoshi Ishii, really interesting fight. I believe that this is a contracted weight, or is it heavyweight?
It's a 105 kilograms, so it's a catch weight.
Okay. And we've seen Hune fight at both weights, light heavyweight and heavy. How much do you think Satoshi Ishii has left in the tank?
I don't know. I don't think much, to be honest with you. I mean, anything can happen. I mean, he might surprise all of us, right? Look at what I'm just drawing a blank right now. It'll hit me in a second. You never know with these older guys, right? They just come out of nowhere. They haven't competed in a while. They've got all this bundle of energy. But if Jake is smart, just pick away at him. Just do your thing and don't let him get too close to you. And just use your knees, but get back into position and just take it from there, right? So,
and Satoshi Ishii is fighting in Heat 49, I believe, January 19th. What the hell? These guys are crazy, man.
They're nuts. They are.
It's almost like as they get older. I mean, look at Krokop. He went out on a 10-fight win streak, and he would still be fighting if he could. Crazy.
Yeah.
If you look at his Instagram, though, he's still training really hard. He still looks really good. We all miss Krokop. Simon Biong, have you seen him, the EFC champion that's fighting Vitaly Shemtov?
No.
And so there's not much tape on him either. I haven't found anything.
I think he'll be added to my list the morning of, right, or the day before. Just when I'm watching fights, I'm looking for tendencies, whatever. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I overanalyze, and I've learned to sort of just don't focus too much. Just the bottom line is it's up to Trigg. right? I'm going to break it down for Trigg. I'm going to, you know, if I can use a hockey analogy, I'm going to stick handle, make the pass to Trigg, let him do it. But I just do it for myself. I just want to know more about the fighters so I can see things that may come up, but he'll definitely be on the list for me to take a look at and say, okay, you know what? Here's what we can expect.
And how much of the fighter meetings do you take from, do you apply to your fight night calling, talking to the fighters? Because let me give you an example. I talked to Johnny Case night before last, and I've never seen anybody so focused.
Yeah.
In an interview, like he was ready to fight last night or whatever it was, and that almost made me believe that he can beat Tofik more than I did beforehand, just because I saw his mindset. So, do the fighter meetings play into what you see?
Yes and no, right? So it all depends. And you know, when you're looking at a fighter, so because I've been around this game for as long as I have, I'm looking for the smallest injury, right? I'm looking for the smallest, you know, blink of an eye, or if we're talking, if you're not giving me eye contact, or if you're looking away when you say something, it kind of gives things away. But there's so many intangibles that can happen from the moment we speak to these guys or girls until fight night. There's so many things that can happen. You know, how many times have you seen, knock on wood, a fighter, you know, twist an ankle getting into the elevator, slipping on some? I'm looking outside right now and thinking, I got to go pick up my son at school, and you know, I don't want to slip on the ice. I got to make sure I put salt in the driveway, because chances are my wife is wearing some sort of boots with heels, right? And little small things in life can change anything, right? So with these guys and with these fighters in general, I get a lot from any pre-fight conversations, and especially with the notes that I get from Rizin, that I kind of break things down. And, you know, even when you talk to them, when you see them at breakfast, you can kind of tell their mindset, where they're at. I don't like talking to fighters the day of the fight unless they talk to me.
Okay.
Like at its core, you're turning back into a caveman or woman, right? Like you're going to be getting in there within a few hours and looking across the ring and seeing someone who's likely trained just as hard as you to put you to sleep or to break something in your body. That's a different mindset than, you know, what's the score in the Leafs versus Colorado game, or what's, you know, what am I doing when I coach my boys? It's totally different. It's a different mindset, right?
So do you talk to them after the weigh-ins?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. If I have a chance, yeah. It all depends on where we're at, where Trigg and I are at, if we got to get out of there and do something else at the meeting. But if I see the guys, usually at the weigh-ins, you'll get a smile or a wink and you'll know who to talk to. But we all have our roles at the Rizin weigh-ins. I'm off to the side with Trigg and Shingo, whatever, you know, just because we've got to do videos for social media if we have to. But they're all seated with their cornermen to the side there, and you know, sometimes they're just bored and whatever, and you know, we have our headsets on for the translation, and it depends on what kind of mood Shingo's in. If he's translating to the word, or if he's throwing in some barbs, you know, you can tell all the Americans or the English-speaking fighters are laughing because he's got a really cool sense of humor. It's kind of dry, and you got to catch it at times, right? Sometimes he's just, you know, when Shingo's on, it's straight line, right? So it's good times. But yeah, we'll talk to the fighters even afterwards. But then they got to get into their zone, right? So even though the fight's not for another 24 hours, right, because of the time, whatever. Now, sometimes they just, you know, some guys want to be loose and some of them want to focus, right?
Well, like you said, so the caveman thing, sometimes you don't want to talk to a fighter right before when they're doing the weight cut, because they're not themselves, you know? And I
remember Sportsnet all the time, and the UFC would give us access to so many of these fighters cutting weight. And I'm like, do you guys realize this is the last human being I want to speak to you right now? I know we need something for the 6 o'clock news. I know we need something for the website and the 10 o'clock and the 11 o'clock news. And I know that. But you understand this person hasn't eaten properly in about 3 days, and you think they want to talk to me for 3 minutes?
Right.
No, they don't.
See, I don't even want to be on a podcast with somebody at that time. I don't want to annoy anybody. I feel like, you know, I'm not going to get good answers from them, but I especially wouldn't want to be in a room with that person, because
I'll give you this, and everybody listening right now, okay? If you've never cut weight before, okay, the next time you're starving, absolutely starving, where you got to get your brain's like, I don't care, I'll go to McDonald's, I'll go to whatever fast food place. Don't go for a 5-kilometer jog or a 5-mile run. Go try it, and now try talking to somebody. Now, some reporter you got probably no respect for is calling you or wanting to talk to you. Just see how you feel.
Yeah.
Right? And I tell people, my own friends, my own pals, oh, I'm starving, and I'm looking at them. You have no idea what starving is. Don't tell me you're hungry. Did you have breakfast today? Yeah. Did you have dinner last night? Yeah. You're not starving.
Right.
You're just being a clown. Okay.
I cut weight one time in my life, and it wasn't even for a fight. I just had to cut weight and, for some other stuff. But I was irritable. And this was like 2 days and like 15 pounds, right? It was nothing. But, because I'm 220 pounds, it was pretty easy. But I knew that I was irritable. I knew that I never wanted, but there's no way I could have fought, Joe. I was weak, and my stomach was weak. I felt like even in the 24 hours after where these fighters get to rehydrate, it takes your brain 72 hours to rehydrate.
Water,
I wasn't thinking clearly. I was, I wasn't, my daughter was running around, and I caught myself yelling at her for no reason at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
do you guys have the hangry Snickers commercials down there?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's a real thing, man. Sometimes I tell my wife, I joke with my wife all the time when she comes home and she's had a bad day at work and blah, blah. It's understandable because of the industry that she's in. And I'm like, tell me you ate something, because you're either, don't be upset at me. You're hangry.
Mm-hmm.
Eat something before you talk to me. Don't come at me. Right. And she kind of laughs it off sometimes. I'm like, this is what fighters go through, man. They're hangry. They don't want to talk to another human being. They want food. Right.
Yeah. Well, and I kind of equate it to like somebody who drinks multiple cups of coffee a day and then take them off coffee for 3 days, and they start to have headaches. They start to be irritable. I mean, it's a real similar thing. Your body gets used to something. I can't imagine that. Okay, last couple fights here. We'll go over the lightweight Grand Prix. Johnny Case and Tofik, we kind of covered that. Pitbull and Gustavo. I find this to be a closer matchup than most people because Gustavo is such a wild card and he's so rangy. What do you think about this fight?
As long as his hands don't break, could win this fight, right? As long as that wrist doesn't break, he could win this fight here. As long as he doesn't go in there, again, with the mentality of, oh, my God, I'm fighting a Pitbull brother. Oh, my God. I doubt he will. I'm hoping Mandalay will be in his corner, right? Because you got to go in there and you got to have either A, no respect for your opponent and just do what you got to do, or if you're going to respect your opponent, what can you do to take that respect and flip it over? Right? So that's the only thing. And Gustavo is just a trained killer, and Frede's got the experience. This is a fantastic fight.
What would be the best matchup for the finals for you? Would it be Tofik and Pitbull?
I think that's the fight there because, Patricky's got the reputation, and Tofik needs to make a name for himself, right? That could be a fantastic fight for Rizin and for Bellator. But heck, it's any one of these four. I mean, first of all, Johnny Case, don't mess with that dude, man. Do not mess with that dude. He has a habit of hurting people and surprising people. Any one of these four will put a smile on my face if they win, right? If you're asking me from a Rizin perspective, then of course I want the Rizin fighters to win.
Right.
But from an MMA perspective, to me, any one of these four make me smile.
I agree, and just like I said again, talking to Case, and then just watching his progression, he's gotten so much better, Joe. I mean, what he did to Souza was unbelievable. We hadn't seen Souza tested to that point, but the fact that he was in his guard for a minute and almost got what was it, a leg lock or an arm bar, slipped out of that, and it was I was just talking to him about the other day. He said the uppercut was, or the little shovel hook was literally not even a foot, just a little tiny one that just caught him in the right place. Yuki Matoya and Patrick Mix. Most people don't know, if they don't watch Bellator, about Mix. He's really good. He's like a backpack. He can just attach to you. Yuki Matoya is somebody I think that really needs this win. Coming off, 2 losses now?
Yeah. Please tell me this fight takes place on the ground.
Yeah, right.
Please tell me this fight takes place all on the ground and someone submits somebody.
I hear you.
Not neutralize each other and give Frank and I 15 minutes of please do something else. That's all I'm asking for, because these two guys are so good on the ground.
No, they are. And the fight I'm probably looking forward to the most, I mean, just there's so many good fights on this card, but is Shintaro Ishiwatari against Hiromasa Ojikubu. This fight, I guess, is for the next in line for the title, I've heard, in April.
Yeah.
Are we doing the Bantamweight Grand Prix in next year? That's
the rumor. That's
okay, because I see somebody like Victor Henry as the wild card there.
Yeah.
He looked really good the last time out. And then you got Barnett.
Who was it that he fought against? Oh, I forgot who it was. Oh, I'm drawing a blank here because we went out for dinner with him afterwards.
Well, who Henry fought against last time?
Yeah.
It was Trent Girdham.
Trent. I've never laughed so hard in my life. That dude there, that guy, he's missing a few screws.
Really?
Oh my God, I've never laughed so hard in my life. That guy there had us in stitches. He's so fun. I forgot Trent. Oh my God, he's gonna kill me. I hope he's back. I'm gonna tell Rizin, got to bring him back just for the comedic factor for dinner and lunch because he's unbelievable. And he told me stuff that he was doing in the fight that was technically illegal. And he's like, I got so much respect for Victor because I was doing some illegal stuff and he was still fighting me. And I'm like, I lost, made a mistake. It was a mistake that cost him the fight.
Right.
But I got respect for that guy. I still want to kill him, but I got respect for him. Okay, cool. Awesome. So yeah, I love it.
That's amazing to hear though. That was after the fight and he was still that funny and that good spirits, huh?
You have no idea. I mean, I can't repeat some of the stuff that he said, but I was dying. I was on the floor, couldn't believe what I was hearing.
I'm going to definitely reach out to him because I'd like to talk to him because I've talked to Victor multiple times, and that was a good fight. I think the difference, like you said, was not only the mistake, but having Josh Barnett in your corner.
Yeah.
Teaching you how to, literally coaching him through how to lock up that reverse triangle that he got, right?
Yeah, sometimes I like when Josh is on Frank and I left because he's loud enough that my mic picks him up. Right. So I'm kind of, you can't see me, but I'll kind of be looking over at Josh. I'll be looking at the action, my screen in the ring and looking over at Josh. And I'll try and keep my mouth shut when I know he's about to yell because who knows what he's going to say. It's probably something fantastic. Right. So
I'll never forget when Alyssa Garcia was fighting. I can't remember, but the crowd was dead silent. And on Fight TV, we could hear every single word that Josh Barnett was saying. So could the rest of the crowd, though. You know. All right, last two fights here. We got. Let's go with the champion here, Ayaka Hamasaki against Siho Ham. This fight to me, it's hard to call a winner. I know Hamasaki's beat her twice, but that was 8 years ago, 6 years ago. Ham's a different fighter. Man, I advise everyone to go watch the Rizin Confessions first of all.
Yeah, man.
They were both on this, and they're doing a Megumi Fuji stair climb, which looks like absolute hell, by the way.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that if I was. No.
We're gonna do a GoFundMe to get Joe Ferraro to get on Megumi Fuji stairs.
Maybe 20 years ago, not now. No chance.
What's your price, Joe?
That just, I don't know how they do it, but it's torturous, it's mean, but it's conditioning. It's conditioning, and it's so good. And this fight here, it's just listen. I can't see him, submitting Hamasaki. So Hamasaki is going to do whatever she can to get this fight down to the ground. I think Hamasaki has to watch out. The one thing I absolutely love about Suzuki Ham is the way she throws her knees during an exchange.
Yeah,
so it's a 1-2 combination, left hook, but that knee comes out of nowhere, and people don't realize. If you've never been hit by a knee anywhere in your rib cage or solar plex, if you've never felt it, it's a game changer. How many times? If you go back and watch fights in any MMA event and watch when two fighters exchange and back and forth and someone lands a knee, and you'll see a fighter with no reaction on their face. They look like everything's okay, but they're backing up. They're backing up because they are sucking wind and realizing, oh my gosh, what just hit me there? I love the way Ham throws her knees in any sort of combination or any exchange in a clinch. I think Hamasaki has to watch for that because they could add up in this fight here, and it could be bad news for her.
Or like you said, it could be one knee. I look at Tomo Masawa, the Deep Jewels champion that Ham fought. She had kind of pushed her and hit her with the combination, and the left knee just right under a rib that just collapsed Tomo, right? And she got kneed into the abyss in the corner. And Tomo's a good fighter. I mean, it's not like this girl's – but it was literally one knee. And like you said, if you've never taken a knee, I can't even handle one rib knee. You hit me with one and I'm falling down, right? That's going to be a crazy fight. I think Hamasaki, I don't make predictions either, but I think Hamasaki's best in the world. I don't –
hands down. Yeah. I mean, I'm leaning towards her to emerge victorious here. I don't know. I mean, this one could go the distance because we are talking about the two best in the world at super atomweight. But predictions for me, it's like, listen, they're fun to make. They're not realistic.
Right.
If you and I both predict who's going to win, neither one of us would be on the air doing this podcast because I just walk over to the nearest gas station or convenience store, put my lottery numbers in, and you'll never see me again. Right? So it's one of those things.
Like you said, in MMA, especially Rizin. I mean, I told people before the Kai and the Horiguchi fight, I said, yeah, Kai Asakura's got a good chance, and You know, Horiguchi had fought 5 times in 7 months, and I gave him a chance, but not that kind of chance. I never saw that fight ending in a minute. You could have, if you would have told me out, if Trigg would have told me out, I'd said, these guys are crazy. Never getting them on the podcast again. You know what I mean?
Right.
Last one we're going to cover is Reina Kubota and Lindsey Van Zant. This is a rematch from Bellator NYC back in June, I believe. Do you think Reina can change enough to stop that from happening? Do you think it was a product of the cage, maybe?
What a great question. God, I think I want to say no. It all depends on Reina herself. If she realizes what could have been, if she realizes what should have been, and does she have the opportunity now to reverse what, how her life could have really changed for even bigger and better? It's up to her, right? Because Lindsay is going to go in there with the big sister attitude, beat you once, I'm going to beat you again. You got to fight me again. This is garbage. I shouldn't be in this fight. I've already beaten her once. Now I'm really going to prove a point, and I'm going to smash her into the mat, right? Reina's got to turn around and say, look, man, I made a mistake. How do I get this back? And I got to get my aggressiveness back. It's in Japan. The crowd's going to be with me. I've got to do whatever I can, no matter what. Make weight. Make weight. And beat this American down. That's what you got to think. If not, I think we'll see a repeat. Right?
Well, and I think that the cage did have a little something to do with it, because she kind of got trapped against the cage, and Reina's not as used to the cage, as Lindsay is. But I agree with you. Speaking of the weight thing, Reina had told a story about when she missed weight, not wanting to go out of her house. Is it fans that also get on these fighters for missing weight? Because it's kind of like a taboo thing in Japan to miss weight.
Huge. It's huge. Yeah, you don't want to miss weight when you're competing in Japan, especially as a Japanese fighter, because of the culture, because of the respect, because of the honor. You signed a contract. You agree that there's 2 things you need to do: weight, fight.
Yeah, because she had talked about like not wanting to go out of her house and crying when she'd go out, and and I was like, wow, that's here in America we see it every weekend in the UFC. Somebody missing by 6 pounds, and I just wondered. So it's a lot of the discipline thing instilled in Japanese fighters as well, right?
Yeah, it's a totally different culture with it. It's a totally different way of life. It is something to behold. Because as a fighter and as an athlete, you are held to a higher standard, right? You are representing the culture. You are representing Japan. You're representing this beautiful lifestyle, this incredible way of living, and you are technically above society because you are a warrior.
Right.
You're contracted to do something. Do it.
Right. What would you say, we'll end on this, what would you say to an American or Canadian or, South American, whatever, traveling over to Rizin for the first time, not only as far as Japan goes, but as far as Rizin goes? What should they pay attention to? What should they go visit,
Well, first of all, if you go to Super Saitama Arena, you're lucky, right? Seize the moment. Enjoy it. Enjoy the Japanese culture. Enjoy the food, which is absolutely fantastic. Get out there. Do your own little research as to what you want to do and what you want to see, because there's so much. It's like going to Vegas for 3-4 days. You're not going to see nothing in 3 or 4 days. You might fill up your schedule and you've only seen 1% of Las Vegas. The same thing in Tokyo, one of the most safest cities in the world. I think it was voted safest city 2 years running now. So it's the culture is completely different. You'll be blown away at how respectful they are. The one thing I tell, even my own friends, just when you travel anywhere in the world, not just Japan, but, the old saying is, when in Rome, do as the Romans, right? Don't bring your culture to Japan and expect the Japanese to accommodate you. You're in Japan. Be one with their culture, right? And it's way easier because they're just simply not arrogant. They're simply not rude. They're just kind. They're constantly bowing at you. You don't need to shake hands with anyone. Just bow, right? And just, do your own research on Japanese culture. Be respectful. I see it all the time when foreigners come to Japan, so disrespectful, so just loud. Like, they don't realize, like, dude, you are on a subway that you can hear a pin drop. The only thing we can hear is your voice.
Right.
Stop.
Right.
Stop. Just be respectful, right? And you go to a restaurant, the restaurant staff will always greet you. It's ingrained in their culture to thank you for entering, thank you for eating. It's just the way it is. Be respectful. When you walk into a convenience store, you can't just grab your stuff and go and pay. There's a line that you have to get into, right? It's little small things that people take for granted in their country. I even told my friends this when they go away on their family vacations to the Caribbean, as an example, and they're complaining about the staff in, I don't know, Cuba, Dominican, Jamaica. I'm like, dude, you realize you're in another country. Yeah. You're bringing your culture to their country. It doesn't work that way. You're in their country. Be respectful. Be like them, right? Yeah. So when it comes, I mean, I've traveled around the world. I just know that I like to blend in, keep to myself, blend in, and just, you know, do what everyone's doing around me. Just, you know, kind of fit in there. Don't stand out. Don't be arrogant. And, you know, when it comes to Japan, you're going to love it, man. Everything about Japan is absolutely beautiful and stunning, and just everybody will help you. You get lost in the streets, you'll be fine. They'll be fine. They'll help you.
I've been told the same thing. And, you know, if I could just add something, I've never been to Japan, but I'm going to go next year, would be to make sure that you listen to Lenny Hart, right? Oh. Yeah, just make sure you be quiet and listen to her.
We're supposed to, her and her husband own a sandwich shop in Tokyo.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah, we're supposed to go. Trigg and I are supposed to go. We might hit it up this time here, depending on timing, but yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that. I've talked to her. I didn't know that. Where is that that's in Tokyo?
I believe it's in Tokyo. Yeah, because she was freaking out at the last show because of the super typhoon, the earthquake, and the volcano eruptions, right? So she was tripping out over that and trying to figure out, you know, how am I going to get home? Because she lives there, right? And she's like, you need to do this, do that, do this, get on the bullet train, blah, blah, blah. You're going to be fine. I'm like, listen, man, either way, I'm getting home. I just want to be home with my family, but I can't leave the island because of what the heck is going on here. I'll figure it out. But she was so concerned about my well-being and Frank's well-being. She's just an unbelievable human being.
I couldn't say enough about her. This podcast wouldn't exist without her. Again, thank you. You're a big reason this podcast exists. You guys all inspire me. And lastly, I just want to say that the Japanese thing, I've learned that from trying to speak Japanese, typing it on Twitter, things like this, that they respect that a lot, that I'm trying to blend into their culture, like you're saying, instead of bringing your own over there. I just think Americans are so loud and brash that, you know, you get into a New York City subway and everything's loud. We're used to that. I wish we could live more like that here in America. Is Canada a little bit more quiet than America?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're a different sort of culture in terms of, you know, we get accused of saying please and thank you a lot. We hold doors. It's just natural. I mean, there was something I posted on my Instagram a while ago when I'd come home. I forgot where I'd come home from, and I will always hold the door for anybody walking behind me or walking in front of me, even if they're 5 steps away. I'll wait, you know. And I've held the door for people, and they just walked in, and I looked at them. I said, "You're welcome." Right. And they looked back at me like I've insulted them, and I'm like, "Well, kind of held the door for you. Well, thank you." And, you know, a lot of Canadians will have a running joke. And I don't think it's an American thing, because one thing I tell my pals is, like, don't judge a full group of people based on one person or one experience or 2 or 3, because it's not like that. But the running joke we have here sometimes, you go to an American restaurant, and the problem with us Canadians, not really a problem, but we're constantly saying thank you, thank you, thank you. So you're talking to a waiter or waitress, and they come take your drink, and, you know, can I get, you know, a glass of water and a glass of red wine? Yeah, thank you, appreciate that. They don't say you're welcome. Wow. For some reason, Americans don't say, not all Americans, for some reason, they never say you're welcome. It's always
That makes sense.
And I'm like,
I live here, and I live in one of the best states, I think, in the United States, Colorado, and I think people are a little bit more lax and a little bit nicer, but for me, it stems from my
West Coast.
You know, my grandmother is the one who's taught me to always have manners. Please, thank you. Could never tell someone you appreciate them enough. You could never say thank you enough in my book. But I get that a lot too, to where it's thank you, and it's like, you know, it's like you could at least acknowledge it in a little bit better of a way than that, right? Yeah,
even if you're on the phone, just kind of look or smile. That's why I look at people, right? So I posted this thing on Instagram where it was this I think it was a Saturday Night Live character, if I'm not mistaken. One of the girls kind of this like disgusting look, and it's like when Canadians meet people that don't say thank you or you're welcome, right? Because it bothered me. I'm like, I just held the door for you. I waited for you. Like, I don't even know who you are. and you just walked in like I work here or something like that. Right? Like, what's wrong with you, man?
Like it was almost expected of you to do that without any acknowledgement at all. I get it all the time, Joe. I hold the door for just about everybody, but especially older folks. I have nerve
100%.
damage, and I know what it's like for people to be in my way when I'm in pain, and and so I try to be as nice as possible. But I feel the same way, and I always make sure I tell them, "You're very welcome." I'll get right in their face and tell them, "You're very welcome," and they don't know how to.
Humanity has changed so much. My son and my wife are all. My son loves it. He's a mini me. But whenever we're driving, my wife says the same thing. Whenever I'll let somebody in. Right, or it's their turn, whatever. Right, like anytime someone lets me in or whatever, if you can't hear me, right, but I'll kind of wave at them if I'm ahead of them, so they can see my hand. It's my gesture saying thank you. Right. And if they don't say thank you back, or if someone does that, I let them in. My wife's like, "Don't do it, don't do it," and I'll just pull up right beside them, and I'll wait for them to look, and I'll give them the thumbs up, like out of complete just sarcasm, and they're just kind of like, "What?" I'm like, forget it, just like. Dude, you can't. Like, I let you in. If it wasn't for me, you'd be. The people behind you were not going to let you in.
Well, right? I feel like if we all did that, I live close enough to Denver to where if we all did that, traffic would be so much better. Let's just let each other in, and everyone wave, and everyone be nice. It could be so easy in this world. Instead, everyone makes it so difficult. I feel like everyone's on not everyone, generalizing, but so many people are on the tunnel vision thing, to where nobody else exists. That's why I had to get away from the city. Joe.
Yeah.
I had to get away from the city. I live in a town of 900 people, and I see more deer and bears and foxes and shit than people. And it's actually really nice because I feel more appreciated by the animals.
Well, shoot, no, listen, I live northeast of Toronto now, and maybe the population's here, I think 35,000 people, if I'm not mistaken. Toronto's 20 minutes to half an hour away, where there's 3-4 million people there, right? It takes a lot for me to go down to Toronto. A lot. When you and I were supposed to do the interview originally, that was on the other side of Toronto, but that was someone that could potentially have lost $500,000. I had to go save that deal, so I had to do that. But you messaged me today on Instagram. You're like, "You ready to go?" I'm like, "Yep, just coming home." The meeting I had was about 10 minutes north of my house. A very rich business owner's got to get a new property, and I'm like, this is the deals that I like, man. Close to home, work from home. I mean, this is my office here. This is where I work, and I do all my deals. So it's different here. And the one thing I'm sure in your town is when you notice the city coming into your town, right? Like, for example, my town is called Stouffville. If there's crime in Stouffville or something that doesn't make sense, right? I'll be the first person to pull up to somebody. I'm like, "Yo, this is Stouffville, man. Right? This is not Toronto. Yeah. This is not the hood. This is Stouffville. You have respect. You hold the door. Come on, man. Like, don't bring that hatred up here. This is not what everyone's friendly here. Everyone's cool. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, Asian, Italian. We're all humans here. Don't bring your attitude here."
That's interesting, Joe. Right? I need to go visit there because I this place where I live, La Vida, we're an hour from the interstate, I-25, which travels all the way up and down Colorado, which is, drug route from New Mexico and everything. Oh, yeah. But I always tell people the same thing. We have some towns near us that have drug problems, have, all kinds of problems. I always tell people, don't bring that shit to La Vida. Here in La Vida, we all wave at each other. My truck's unlocked right now. I'm not worried about it at all. Like, let's not even bring that here. And I feel like a community does that together. We all do that together. Everyone opens doors for people here. Everyone knows each other. Yeah. And even if you don't know the person, you're all in La Vida. So it's really, really lax. So if you're ever down in this way, you hit me up, Joe. I want to thank you so much for today.
My pleasure.
You want to let anybody know about your business, just in case they're listening from Canada?
Yeah. Hey, listen, if you're in the area, you need a mortgage agent or mortgage broker, by all means, give me a call. Joe@joeferraro.ca is the web or email address. Website's joeferraro.ca. Instagram, Joe A. Ferraro. But yeah, I'm still, people always ask, you're still involved in the MMA world. You still enjoy it. I tell people all the time, it's like, for me, it's like riding a bike. Always be involved. It'll take me instantaneous to be caught up. And if I miss anything, it's just something I've been doing for so long. I just get it. I just understand it. So do I wish my career was still larger as it was in the MMA world? Yeah, why not? But living the dream right now, man. I cannot express to you how life has changed, and working from home is fantastic. And I get to work Japan 6 times a year, man.
Things change too, because we've heard that Rizin is going to do a little bit more local events next year.
I don't know. That I don't know yet.
Yeah. They were up on the website that they're going to start doing more outside the Kanto region, and just more small local events. So hopefully they'll have you there. Maybe you'll be going to do more Rizin events. I do got to say before we go that I was sad to hear that you're always going to do Rizin, because I was going to say, hey, Joe, if you ever don't, make sure you recommend me for the job. I'll be the first one there.
Yeah, I'll be sticking around for a while. I mean, something crazy would have to happen with my mortgage business. Like, it would have to be to the point where, when you're dealing with hypotheticals, like let's say all of a sudden I am dealing with a ton of commercial deals where they're $5 million, $10 million, $30 million mortgages, that would be like, whoa, I got to make a decision here.
Right.
But you're telling me, like, I'm still going to Japan. I get to call fights.
Yeah, that would be like you missing one or two shows. I know you enough, Joe. You ain't going to do that.
No,
I really appreciate you. Everyone,
my pleasure.
Everyone make sure that they tweet at Joe and Trigg during the Rizin events. These guys will talk some shit on the broadcast itself and on Twitter, especially Trigg. He likes to get people real drunk, as we
there's always something that comes up. Yeah.
But thank you so much, Joe. I value your time so much. I couldn't be more humbled by it, and I hope to talk to you again soon, sir.
My pleasure.
Have a nice day, man.
You too.